Hawai'i. Ayala o Pele I Hawai'i ea. Ke ha'a maila I Maokele ea. Ayala o Pele. Ayala o Pele I Hawai'i ea. Ke ha'a maila I Maokele ea. Uhi uha. Uhi uha mai ana ea. Ke no mea ela ya puna ea. Uhi uha. Uhi uha mai ana ea. Ke no mea ela ya puna ea. O ka mea nani. O ka mea nani kai pali uli ea. E pule loa ela ina pali ea. O ka mea nani. O ka mea nani kai pali uli ea. E pule loa ela ina pali ea. Aia ka palena. Aia ka palena I maui ea. Aina o ka ululau ea. Aia ka palena. Aia ka palena I maui ea. Aina o ka ululau ea. Ihea. Ihea ka ua la ia ihea. Ike ala nui a eli ane ihea. Ihea. Ihea ka ua la ia ihea. Ike ala nui a eli ane ihea. Haina. Haina ia mai ka puana ea. No hiki aka no hei noa ea. Haina ia mai ka puana ea. No hiki aka no hei noa ea. E ala ea. Aie.
Aloha. Welcome, everybody. We are so happy to have you here. We're so grateful to have you here as we explore Pele's journey together. And as a reminder, this story isn't just about migration. It's about resilience, belonging, and the connections that we carry. And we're so grateful that you're here experiencing it with us. So before we get started, we want to make sure that this is a smooth experience for everybody. So for now, please keep your microphones muted and your cameras off, but please use the chat to engage in the story and with each other. But of course, we always want to lead with aloha and with kindness whenever you're sharing your thoughts. And we're grateful for any time that you have to stay with us. But if you have to hop off early, no worries. We are going to drop at the end of this of our time together, we're going to drop a link to our feedback survey. So if you could, please fill it out before Friday, because you will be entered in to win Pele, the goddess of Hawaii's volcanoes. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to be entered into that raffle. And if you have to hop off early, no worries. Just make sure to fill out that feedback survey before Friday. And lastly, we are recording, so this is accessible for everybody. And we will follow up with more details after the event with more resources about how you can learn more about Pele's journey and how you can access that recording. So aloha, I'm Ipol of Hawaiian Diaspora, and we are a brand new and emerging organization. We're dedicated to supporting Hawaiians living outside of Hawaii, emotionally, culturally, and communally. And actually, this is our first ever event. So we're super happy that you are here experiencing this with us. It's important that you know that we believe it's essential to address the unique experiences of the Hawaiian diaspora. We want to validate each other. We want to raise awareness about all of our unique journeys. And we want to foster a strong sense of belonging, no matter where we are or where we grew up. I want to take just a second to ask my team to come off of mute to just say aloha real quick, because I want to give them a shout out for working so hard to make sure that you all feel embraced, heard, and validated.
Aloha, my name's Kapuakea. I am one of the 3 that makes up Hawaiian Diaspora, and we're so excited that you guys are here with us today. Really appreciate you coming through and participating with us.
Mahalo Kupuakia. We also have another member of our team, Kunae, who is not here yet. They'll be joining on in just a minute. But again, I want to give a shout out to all of the intentionality and the hard work that they are putting into Hawaiian diaspora because we're really excited about the future and how we can support each other. So tonight we're going to explore the story of Pele and reflect on how her migration connects to our own. And we hope this inspires you to embrace your own story and deepen your connection to Hawaii, Hawaiian culture, and community. So with that said, I'm really excited to introduce you to our storyteller, Ki'ilani Shibata of Ka Mahina Project. We're so honored to have Ki'ilani with us. Her work through Ka Mahina Project uses storytelling to connect us to culture, to ourselves, and to each other. Mo'olelo, or storytelling, is central to Hawaiian culture. And tonight, we're going to use it as a way to connect with Pele's journey and reflect on how her story resonates with our own lives. So, why are we doing this event at all? As a new organization, we've seen the deep need to connect diaspora Hawaiians more fully to ourselves, to our culture, and to each other. And this event is one way that we hope to address that. For those who are not currently a part of the diaspora, whether you've returned home, if you were raised in Hawaii, or if you're just joining to learn more, we hope that this storytelling resonates with you too and sparks actionable dialogue about identity, connection, and belonging. But before we begin, we want to take a moment to really ground ourselves. So in the chat, I invite you to share one thing that you're bringing into the space tonight. That could be an intention, it could be a feeling, or just curiosity. For me, what I'm bringing into the space tonight is mahalo. It's gratitude for this opportunity to connect with all of you and reflect on how Pele's journey inspires us to embrace our own. So if you could take just a quick second to put in your intentionality, or I'm sorry, to put in what you want to bring into the space. And let's kind of see how we are all connecting with what we're bringing in today. We want some big mo'o energy is being brought in. We're bringing in aloha and an open mind. That's awesome. Keep using the chat to connect more about what you're bringing into the space. Some more gratitude, solidarity from Tonga, mahalo nui. Please feel free to keep using the chat. So, as we've mentioned, storytelling is how we pass down wisdom and values. And as we listen to the story, we'll connect on how they resonate with our lives. If you're able to, we encourage you to jot down thoughts as they arise to reflect deeper on them later, because you'll be surprised about what more will come up for you when you go back to your reflection of the story. So now I'm going to invite Hi'ilani to come off of mute and to lead our circle. And again, I want to say aloha and mahalo Hi'ilani for your time and to be with us here and share today.
All right, aloha mai kako. I would like to open up with an oli, and this oli is Uau Hawai'i. And so if you do know this oli, it's a beautiful oli that was written by Larry Kimura. And I just felt like it was something that we should join together. So if you know the oli, then oli with me, but please stay mute because it doesn't do good on the technology. All right. Kaue kavanau ke au I kalani, he veke I ka po pili puka, he elele o ka poni hikin. Kau ke avana au I ka a la a papa, la ia nai luna o ke kukulu o kalani la. O ka ue ulialo nei ka ulue ai. Uawe. O mai la ko malama I ka honua nei I ka mauli ola Uau Hawai'i ke oli no nei. Mai ka pina ka velo na kala. Ka iko ia I ka ike mano mano. Ka ike koli umai o ke kilo mai. O ka uno ia o ka pulama. A pa'a maka ipu o ka ike ai. Uau He mele no Hawai'i uau. All right, mahalo, everybody. So I wanted to actually start by telling you why when I met with the team at Hawaiian Diaspora, why I really wanted to do Pele stories. And many of you know me actually from doing Hina stories, right? Of the Ka Mahina, the Mahina and everything. But I'm actually from Hilo on the island of Hawaii. And the Pele stories are part of my life, of me growing up. And so when I think about my lahui and my people that are living away from Hawaii, I always think that if there's anything I would love everyone outside of Hawaii that has a connection to Hawaii to know more about, it's Pele. And one of the reasons also is because Pele grounds us and connects us not only to our Hawaii, but connects us to Oceania as a whole. And so her stories and what goes around her is just amazing because we will connect to Oceania as well as connect to the Piko Kapaki Pika, right, our center of Hawaii. Now, I grew up in Hilo in the 70s and 80s. I left Hilo to move to Oahu in the 90s. And during that time, during the 80s, that's when Kilauea was really, really erupting. I tell people sometimes that I thought everybody lived next to a erupting volcano and that everyone at school practiced earthquake drills where you had to either go in between a dorsal or underneath your desk and all these kind of things. We had these drills because there were constant earthquakes because of the big eruptions of Pele. And these big eruptions were so beautiful because at night, we would climb on our roof of our house and we would look towards Kilauea and you could see sometimes the spouting lava, but you would see that red glow of the beautiful eruptions at Kilauea. And one of the things that I got to learn about was when we had the rain of the Pele's hair. And I'm not sure if you guys know what Pele's hair is, but it's when the eruptions go really high and the wind catches the lava, right? The Pele, we call it Pele in Hawaiian. And when the makani catches that lava, it creates this almost like floss, just like cotton candy. And it'll actually carry in the wind because it's so light, and it'll rain down on places around the volcano. And because these eruptions were so big, it would sometimes rain on the hale I lived in, grew up in Waikiauka, because Waikia is a huge ahupua'a that goes all the way up, right? All the way really close. And so I would have to actually collect in the morning. Sometimes we had a special broom and we would have to like do this whole thing and sweep it up, because you didn't want that to get inside of your fingers or your toes or any part of you. And so I thought everybody knew that as well. So how fun, right? How fun. All right. So what I would like to also start with is, in my doing more research about our Pele Mo'olelo that we're going to go through today, there is a excerpt that I would like to read, and it actually comes from Dr. Kanehele, Auntie Pua, and it's from her Kahonua Ola, The Living Earth. And this is actually from her, I think this was in like the 1989 or something version of this. Now you can purchase, especially at the Edith Kanakole Foundation, you can purchase her more newer one. But I'm getting this excerpt that I just want to read to you folks because it really hit me powerfully. And the reason it hit me powerfully is because she says, this is what she says, that the amount of information recorded in a literary piece, whether narrative or poetic, is invaluable. The worth of understanding these pieces will allow us to see not merely the taro farmer, for example, but a person who must know his soil, cloud conditions, planting cycles, water sources, moon phases, spiritual obligations, manifestations, and other areas which enrich his skill as a farmer and provider. This is a specific skill which the farmer fully understood, and a helper to that farmer or an understanding is equal to that of the farmer. My point is that we Hawaiians must begin to unveil for ourselves the knowledge of our ancestors. We of this lahui are gifted with the extrasensory perception of our na'au, which connects us to our ancestors. Therefore, when we read of warring chiefs building heiau to their gods, or a match for mating of the traditional wrapping of a bundle to be hidden, or a challenge at makahiki season, it is not some stranger from another land or a fairy tale to be taken lightly, but it was our family who were the heroes or the heroines in many of these stories. The colloquial reference by people, the Hawaiians used to do this and that, is a reference to your and my great-grandparents, who were the warring chiefs or the ones who hid the bundle. When reading with the frame of mind of ancestral connection, we will be able to feel the involvement with our history, whether narrative or poetic. We will feel what others not of this lahui could not possibly feel because they are not spiritually and emotionally connected. Therefore, our possible dimensions of understanding are greater than others who choose to write about us. Isn't that beautiful, you folks? It really hit me because it made me really realize that it is so important for us not only to read about our stories, our mo'olelo and everything, but that it's really our kuleana as lahui, members of our lahui, to share the stories, because our stories are different depending on where you're from, depending on what ohana you are. And these Pele stories I am going to be sharing with you come from my life and also from my ohana. And so after I do my sharing, we are going to open it up. And what I really, really would love from you is ohe pau ka ike kahala ho'okai. All knowledge is not in one place. And so when we have our reflection time, if you can share maybe different tidbits of the Pele mo'olelo that you learned from your family, or something you experienced that has something to do with Pele, we would love to hear that from you. Yes, so we can add, right? Add to our knowings and our understanding. All right, so to start, one of the most fortunate things I have had in my life is my first real job, I guess you could say job, was working in the education department at the Bishop Museum for about 14 years. And there was where I used to tell this Pele story that I'm going to share with you. I've added a little bit though since then, but I used to share this Pele story specifically for students that visited the museum, usually third grade. We would relate it to the rock cycle, actually, yeah. So the stage is that we are in Pola, right? Or Kahiki, depending on what version you want to say. But we are in the homeland of Pele. And she is a young goddess. She is developing her powers. And one of the things is her mana, her power over fire and eruptions. And so she is paired with her uncle, Lono Makua. And Lono Makua loved working with Pele, and he gave her Paoa, P-A-O-A. That was her fire stick. And so this la'o was how she was able to dig, right? To eli into the honua, into the earth, and start eruptions and play with her fire. Now, on this place of Pola, and her homeland, she had many brothers and sisters, right? And one of her sisters was Namaka Okahai. And Namaka Okahai's special power was over the ocean waves. And Namaka o Kahai had a beautiful place where she had made her home. And she did all kinds of things. She was an older sister. Well, Pele was very fiery and the younger sister, and not always did they get along. Well, in one version of this, Pele got wind that her older sister had an ipo, a sweetheart. And so Pele, wanting to make a little bit of saucy trouble, I like to say, in her fiery way, went and tried to take Namako o Kahai's ipo away from her. And in this, Namako o Kahai got so upset, right? She got so upset that her and Pele started to go at it. And at this place, you had the fire and the eruptions and the Pele, and then you had the wave action. And although they were making new land, it was very chaotic. And the only people that could stop it was her parents and her ohana. So when the two were finally calmed down, the family had a meeting, had a ho'oponopono. And in this ho'oponopono, they decided that they could not, these two sisters could not live in the same place. And that Pele needed to leave because she could fulfill kuleana, right? Her privileges and her powers in this land going towards Kanehoalani, or the god of the sun, right? Or the sun. And so with that, a va'a was kalaia, right? Was created. And this va'a's name was Honua I'ake. Yeah, Honua I'ake. And it was actually kalaia, or carved by Kane Kalaia. Kane Kalaia. And so it was he actually carved this canoe, and Kamoho Ali'i is a great big shark and a brother of Namako Kahai and Pele Honua Mea. And so they, Kamoho Ali'i says, I will take care of my sister, and I will lead and navigate this beautiful va'a, this beautiful canoe, up towards, and we will follow Kanehoalani, the sun. And with that, Pele was given by her ohana a younger sister, and her name was Hi'iaka. And Hi'iaka was in the form of an egg. And so Pele held Hi'iaka in the form of the egg close to her bosom as they started their journey up and following Kanehoalani. So as they journeyed, they actually followed the sun. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Kanehoalani, the sun, is the largest volcano in the universe. And so many people believe that Pele, right, that Kanehoalani is the father, one of the fathers of Pele, because you're following the largest volcano in the universe. So as they made their way, right, there are different places they stopped. And one of the places they stopped, the first place in our archipelago, right, in our Pai'aina, was Nihoa. And Nihoa, when they got off, actually, they left one of their other brothers, Kaneapua. So Kaneapua was actually left at Nihoa, which is like, I wonder why. They won't really say why, but was left at Nihoa. But the Paoa, right, here's her digging stick, said, no, this is not a good place, right? There's no real way to create more land in Nihoa. So they get off and they go to the next place. They leave Kaneapua there. And when they go to the next place, it's Ka'ula. And it's a very smaller island. And again, the Paoa stick, it doesn't work. This is not a good place for us to settle. And so this time they go back to Nihoa, pick up their brother Kaneapua, and now they head towards Ni'ihau. And when they get to Ni'ihau, they go, this might be a good place. But still, again, the Paoa stick says, this isn't a very good place. And so they get back onto the canoe and they go to Kauai. And when they get to Kauai, they love Kauai. It's so beautiful with these beautiful, just stark pali, these cliffs and everything. But soon they realized that this really is not the place as well. They're not able to create the home that would be perfect for Pele. So they leave Kauai and they go to Oahu. And they first start at Alia Pa'akai. I'm going to leave that for you guys. I want you guys to discover, if you can, where is Alia Pa'akai on the island of Oahu? And so they go over there and they start to make this home, and they're like, oh, this is a great place. And so she starts creating her home for herself, for Kamoali'i, for Hi'iaka, who has now been birthed from this egg and has taken on the name Hi'iaka Ikapoli Poli o Pele, right? The poli is the bosom. And that is in honor of Pele holding on to Hi'iaka close, right? Close to her bosom. Hi'iaka Ikapoli o Pele. Well, as she's getting good over there, all of a sudden, there's these great big waves that come over Oahu, and they narrowly escape and get back on the Va'a. Namako o Kahai has followed them to this new land. And so, Awen ho'ie, right? Awen ho'ie. They get to Maui, and she's like, oh, I think I can do this, because now we have this big volcano, Haleakala. And so she gets into Haleakala and she starts making a beautiful place. She goes, no way will Namako Kahai be able to find us here, to get to us here. Well, Namako Okahai did it. She covered that island of Maui so much so there was such a great battle that Pele actually dies. And when she dies, her bones are actually buried in a place called Ka'ivi o Pele. And if you guys are familiar with Maui, Ka'ivi o Pele is close to Hana Maui. Yeah, close to Hana Maui. So Ka'ivi, right, the bones, o Pele, of Pele. Yeah. And so the akua, right, the different akua of Hawaii feel a little bit bad for Pele. So they bring her back, they coax her spirit back, and she becomes Pele Honua Mea. And she then finds a new home on the island of Hawaii. And here there are 5 volcanoes. And so she tests every one of them out, and she finds Kilauea, which is close to Mauna Loa, where she was able to make a much better home until today. Now, Namako Kai tries her best every so often to try and start another fight with Pele, but Pele has made a beautiful home there on the island of Hawaii, where her sister Hi'iaka Ikapoli o Pele also lives with her, with many, many other ohana till today. Now, one of the most beautiful things is Kamoali'i is an ali'i. Yeah, she's a royalty. And so for another time, it might be fun to talk about the mano, because Kamoali'i is a big white shark, right? And he is the ultimate ali'i of our sharks, of our mano in our waters. And if you have read a little bit about Kamehameha the Great, the mano, right, the mano in our waters were part of our family, and they had their own hierarchy and their own royalty in the waters around our islands. And so Kamoali'i is that ali'i of these mano in the ocean. So that is her journey here. Now, a lot of people have asked before, well, didn't she erupt the islands from the bottom of the ocean? Guess what, you guys? Pele came after. The islands were already established. How did the islands get established? It was because of our Maui, who pulls up the islands, right? That's a whole nother story. But Maui pulls up these islands from the bottom of the ocean, which actually pulls up this big ulua, right? This big fish. And if you guys know, I'm just gonna tell you the story real quick kind. Maui and his brothers, right, go out to sea, and their mama Hina is very wants this certain type of fish. In one story, the fish is called pimoy. In another story, the fish is called I gotta think about this chant. Uni ho'okahi. Uni ho'okahi. So he's pulling. So he goes out with his brothers and he tells his brothers, okay, I'm going to use my nai kalani, and he beats my nai kalani with a chicken. And he tells them, now, no matter what happens, I'm going to tell you to just paddle and don't look back. And of course, right, when you tell your brothers or your siblings to not look back, at least one of them is going to, right? So in this story, as they're just paddling, and Maui is bringing up this great big fish. All of a sudden, one of the brothers looks back, right? Because there's so much going on, chaos in the water around them, that he gets a little scared. He looks back, and the magic spell is broken from Manai Kalani, and the Pimoy or Uni Ho'okai breaks up into these beautiful islands. And when he goes home to his mother, he says, look, Mom, look, we have all of these islands with abundance. And his mother says, I'm still ono for that fish. Where's the fish? Oh, it's such a great thing. So Maui pulls up the islands first, and Pele comes through. And now Pele, right, does different things in the islands and does that. Now, there's another thing I want to say is, in the 2017 eruptions, one of the things people talked about was Aila'au. And Aila'au is another lava fire god. And he was here before Pele. But what happens is he leaves, actually. He leaves when Pele comes. Now, in the 2017 eruptions of Hawaii Island, they felt like they saw Aila'au, which I think is kind of interesting. And one of the reasons they felt like Aila'au had returned was because some of these eruptions were very different from the previous Pele eruptions, which I thought was super cool. Because what it is, it refers to what I talked about earlier, that our na'o, right? We understand. Things will be told to us through our extrasensory perspective, right, from our na'o. So that's beautiful. Now, in conclusion of this storytelling today, what I want to talk about next is what Pele does here on the islands. Now, specifically on Hawaii Island, before an eruption, yeah, she will be known to take on the costume, I guess you could say, or the illusion of a old, very dirty kind of looking old woman, who usually has even like a ko'oko'o, right? And so she will go wherever this eruption is going to flow from Kilauea or from where have you, she will go and visit each of the different places. And if you, right, I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but if you show ho'okipa, even if this woman is not very good looking, if you show ho'okipa, which means you invite her in, and she will ask you for water and food, and you give her water and food, then she will see, right, that you are an amazing and great Kanaka family, right, Hawaiian family. And so she will tell you, she will reveal herself as Pele, and she will tell you how to prepare your house and your aina so that the lava will go around it and not destroy it. But if you say, oh, close the door, make like you're not there, you know, that kind of thing, that kind of action, then she will surely have her lava flow go quickly over your house. And we see this in old lava flows where lava will go around different places. One of them being that beautiful heiau that is just enshrined in the Pele, right? In the lava, in the Pele. The Hawaiian word for lava is Pele, right? And so in this one version of this story that we used to tell at the Bishop Museum was that she went to this one house, and there was everyone there for some reason, and they invite her in, and she asked for poi. And so they bring her a nice large bowl, an umeke full of poi. She eats it, and she eats it all. And she decides to test this ohana even more. So she asks for more poi, and they gladly give her a second bowl of poi. But then all of a sudden, when she finishes that and she asks for a third bowl of poi, this is where it gets a little bit, right? A little bit tense, I guess you could say. But they still do it. They still give her the poi with aloha. And that's when she reveals herself as Pele. And so I actually like to nickname Pele the goddess of Ho'okipa, the goddess of hospitality. She's the hospitality tester, right? So that's one way she tests people's hospitality. And I also believe also makes you more just remembering, right? Just a reminder that we need to treat everyone with aloha, no matter what they look like, no matter how they present themselves, right? And yeah, so that's one. Now, the second way that she actually also tests the aloha and ho'okipa, right, is when you're driving. So my Hawaiian grandfather, his name was William Kailianu, and he lived, his ohana actually lived in Napo'opo'o, right above, right? Right kind of more in the middle of the road, Napo'opo'o. And he worked at the Pu'uhonua Ohonau. And so what happened is that my grandmother and the children were in Keaukaha in Hilo. So he would travel to Pu'uhonua from Mondays and work and then stay at his Ohanahale all the way, and he would drive home late on Fridays after the sun went down and everything. And so many times he would find himself driving home quite late in the evening because he had kuleana, family kuleana that he had to take care of before, with his ohana living there, before his mom and dad, before he went home to Keaukaha to be with my grandmother and my mom and so forth. And so he drove this old, really cool classic car, right? And so he would be driving, and in his glove compartment, he always had cigarettes. And my grandfather didn't smoke. Well, what happened is every so often, as he was driving, doing the drive from Napo'opo'o, right, through Ka'u, all the way through Volcano area, all the way back to Keaukaha, he would see a beautiful woman dressed in all white, and he knew that that was Pele. And he would tell us that he would go on the side of the road and she would get into the back seat and she wouldn't say anything. And he would just grab the cigarettes, give her a cigarette, and she would light it with her hand. And that's how he knew for a fact, for himself, that was Pele. And as she wouldn't say anything, and as they drove, she would eventually disappear. And so this doesn't only happen on Hawaii Island. In that stretch, there's hardly any lights in the volcano area, not Ka'u, going from Ka'u all the way back to Hilo, not too much lights. But there are specific places on each of the islands where Pele is known, right, to be present. So on the island of Oahu that I live now, it's on the Ka'ivi coastline. And the Ka'ivi coastline, if anybody knows, has really hardly any lights, right? And it's a windy road. It's always on these windy roads that Pele will make an appearance, and she'll usually be this beautiful woman in all white, sometimes with a red flower in her hair, sometimes with a white bob, yeah? And you're supposed to stop and pick her up and show, right? Show aloha, show ho'okipa, and everything. Now, for me, every time I've heard this story, especially from my grandfather and everything, all I thought into myself was Pele always made sure that our people got home safely, because you're not gonna fall asleep after that, right? But as you're driving late at night, sometimes you fall asleep, right? But if you show your aloha, make sure everybody is maikai on your journey home, you're not gonna fall asleep after Pele picking up Pele. So she keeps you awake and keeps you safe. So another way that Pele is a beacon, I want to say, of ho'okipa, of hospitality, and shows our people in her mo'olelo, in these mo'olelo, how wonderful, right, we as people are, meaning that within us, we always know what is the most appropriate action filled with aloha, as always. Now, before I completely end, I want to also tell you guys, growing up in Hilo, you get assignments, right? And my 7th grade assignment, and it was actually because we had speech contest, and I wanted to do a speech on the volcano. And it was actually, I found this whole story about the pohaku. And so I know many of you know that you're not supposed to take pohaku, right, away from Hawaii, especially from the volcano. Well, actually, Pele didn't start that. It was started by the park rangers. The first park rangers that helped open up the Hawaii, the National Hawaii Volcanoes Park, started to get really upset that every visitor that would come to the volcano would take rocks with them. So they started a rumor, and they started to say, if you take rocks, then you're going to be cursed by Pele, right? And so, right? They it's so funny. So they started this rumor, and of course, iko olelo no keola, iko onelo no kamake, right? What comes from our mouth is very powerful, and it has come true. And so I again tell everybody, do not take any pohaku, any lava rocks, especially from the volcano. How many times is those rocks returned because they have bad luck when they go away? Now, that's really interesting. It's we actually the Hawaii National Volcanoes Park actually lent a pohaku called Kane Po to the National Museum of American Indian with the guidance of Auntie Pua and the Ida Kanakaole Foundation Ohana, right? All of that Ohana. They actually asked the pohakus in Volcano who wanted to go for 20 years to National Museum of American Indian. And so in Washington, D.C. And so this large rock was actually shipped all the way to Washington, D.C. and is making its way back home now. And so it's supposed to be replaced with another pohaku. But what will happen is, again, a call out by this ohana, by Auntie Pua and her ohana, to these pohaku, these large volcanic rocks, and see who wants to go Huaka'i, who wants to go journey and spend some time in Washington, D.C. Now, how do I know about Kanepo? Kanepo, when I would go to Washington, D.C., and work at the National Museum of American Indian for the Bishop Museum, I learned about him. And so I would always bring some pa'akai, la'i, right, our tea leaf lays and stuff, and I would always give her to him and talk story. I would talk story with him, and it was really cool. He was actually outside of the museum. Yeah, it was kind of cool. It was kind of cool. So that's also another interesting relationship mo'olelo to Pele. All right, it is 2:45. I guess I talk a little bit too much, but I want to say mahalo. Mahalo to everybody. And I'm going to turn this over and ask Ipo to come back on. And she's going to help us go through our reflection. Yes. And so if you would like to turn on your cameras, that would be great. And raise your hand and please share with us, your reflections on our Pele Mo'olelo today. And mahalo for allowing me the time to share from myself and my ohana.
Mahalo nui loa Hi'ilani. That was super awesome. I was thinking a lot about that story, and what came up for me is that when I think about Pele, I can't help but see her adversity as the fire that she carried with her. And at first, I think it felt like frustration, like fighting with her sister, being forced to leave her home, not knowing where she belonged. And honestly, that really resonated with me as somebody who grew up in the diaspora, because I feel like I spent so much time trying to figure out where I fit. And like for me, that also has manifested into this like frustration, displacement, like that kind of fire frustration. But what inspires me about Pele is like how she didn't let her fire just stay as frustration. She actually turned it into something more, something creative. And her fire became her passion, and she used it to shape the land and build a home. And that makes me think about my own fire. And maybe well, like it started with frustration, but now I'm starting to see how I can use it to create growth. Um, Not just for myself, but for connection to Hawaii, to our culture, and especially for others in the diaspora. So but it's making me really, really think and reflect on that. We really appreciate all of you sharing your thoughts, your mana'o, and please feel free to continue sharing in the chat or reaching out to us afterward if anything comes up that you think of later. I know we are at time, and I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. If there are any questions that you have, not necessarily about the mo'olelo, the story could be, or anything else, please feel free to reach out to us, to email us your questions, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as we can. I want to mention again, we have the giveaway for the book, Pele, Goddess of Hawaii's Volcanoes. We're really excited to do. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the link here in the chat for our feedback survey. And we'll also put this in the email when we recap with some other good stuff like resources, more olelo we touched on, and all kinds of good stuff. If you could fill that out by Friday, we'll get you entered in to win that book. And then if you do feel like sharing some of your experience from our circle tonight on social media, it would be awesome if you could tag Hi'ilani at Ka Mahina Project so other folks can see what great work they do. And if you could also tag Hawaiian Diaspora, that'll also get you an extra entry into the raffle. But we really want to close this space by saying mahalo nui loa. Thank you so very much for being in this space with us today. Like we mentioned, this is the first thing that we have done. And it really means a lot that you took the time and the energy in this space to be here with each other so that we could dive deeper into the story and what it means for us. So we keep your eyes tuned, peeled out for all the other things that we have coming down the pike, because we are really excited in 2025 to go big, to go bold, and to do a lot of things to help support you and our Hawaiians in the diaspora. And we appreciate you so much. So I'm going to go ahead and close the space. Mahalo nui loa. Take care. Aloha.